Welcome, everybody, to the next Read Your Genes podcast. We're going to go over questions that were submitted on the Read Your Genes course. So let's get started with the questions. Just a few today. Is it possible that my 9 siblings could have some of the same gene defects that I have? Well, it's not only possible, but it's definite. So understand that you receive one allele from your mother and one allele from your father. So if, let's say, both your mother and your father have a double allele defect on, let's say, one of the PON1 genes, then you will definitely have a double allele defect on that specific PON1 gene, and every single sibling in your family would have, every offspring of your mother and father, if they both have a double allele defect on a specific gene, every offspring will also have a double allele defect. If your father has a double allele defect and your mother has a single allele defect, you have a 25% chance of just having a single allele defect. You have a 75% chance of having a double allele defect. And it's the same thing with your siblings or your children. So if you have a double allele defect on a gene and your husband does, that child's father does, then there's a 100% chance that they will also have a double allele defect. If you have a single allele defect and the child's father has no defects on that gene, the child cannot have a double allele defect. So it can't be a 2. It can only be a 1. That child only has a 25% chance of having a single allele defect, a 1 on that gene, and a 75% chance of not having a defect. So that's how that works. So do understand, though, that there can be differences to what I just said because you could have acquired defects. So those are inherited defects. An acquired defect is different, meaning that you might not have had any defects on a particular, let's use PON1 gene when you were born, but because you were exposed to some heavy poisons or something at some point in your life, it damaged those genes, and now you have a defect on those genes. That's the argument with this mRNA therapy that's being posed as a vaccine, is that it can be damaging people's genes. I would love to see studies, and they'll never publish them if they do them. I would love to have some patients send in their own studies and see what genes are affected pre and post vaccine. Probably never get anybody to do that either, but it'd be different things can damage our genes. And then if you had let's say you had no defects on a gene and you had your children, and then later were exposed to some toxin damaged genes, damaging your genes, then of course you're not passing them on to your children because you already have children. If the caffeine gene is not highlighted, does that mean it's okay to drink coffee? Yeah, so if I didn't highlight that and make a note of it, then it's okay to drink coffee. Obviously, there's other issues other than just genetics. With coffee, you could have, a food sensitivity to coffee. So, but the caffeine gene has to do with the caffeine, not just coffee. It's caffeine, and it's the genetic issue with caffeine, not a peptide antibody issue. Is in the sensitivity. The oxalate pathway has not been highlighted, even though my kidney stones are oxalate based. Yeah, because you can have no genetic defects, but you can still have issues because of other reasons too. You could end up with kidney stones because you dehydrated. Number one reason why you get kidney stone is you've been dehydrated for a long period of time, and you will still build up oxalates. If you have a diet that's high in oxalates, and even though you process them very well through your gut, and you don't have a predisposition from a genetic standpoint to have kidney stones, you could still get kidney stones. So just same thing with your detoxification pathway genes. You could have just clean cytochrome P450 and clean PON1 genes, and but you have major detox issues because you're exposed to a lot of toxins. You're you've damaged your liver in other ways. You've, consumed a lot of alcohol. You've used different medications that damaged your liver. So there's a greater picture than just genetics. That's why you have to look at the big picture of everything. All right, that's the questions we had submitted. So thank you for participating. Hope this is a blessing to everybody.